Boom! And we are live. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. I said I always start my show saying thank you. So thank you. Available on any podcast platform. Apple Podcast seems to be the main one that everybody uses. But if you are one of those people who have an Android, who feel the need to not get an iPhone, we are available on any other platform. iHeartRadio, soon to be on Spotify. So it's a bunch. And also on YouTube, if you're obviously watching this video, thank you for tuning in. Please hit that subscribe button. Please tell a friend. Leave a comment. Any questions that you guys have, please let me know. I love to get interaction with you guys. So first off, where I was right. And that's what I love about sports. Absolutely love this about sports, is that people have debates no matter what, right? It could be politics. It can be who said what. It could be drama. But a lot of the times it's a matter of opinion, and there's real no facts. There's real no right or wrong, yes or no. It's just, what do you believe in? Not a right or wrong. And that's okay. That's okay. But that's why I love sports, is because, yes, there is that aspect of opinion. Who's better, LeBron, Jordan? I say LeBron. Most of you listening probably say Jordan. There's the opinion of, is LeBron still the best in the world? Is Steph Curry the second greatest point guard of all time, like I said? Probably get some pushback there. There's going to be opinions where we don't agree, where I disagree with you, you disagree with me, and that's okay. But there's also this unique aspect of sports where questions will be answered, no matter what. We may disagree on if it happens, but when it happens, there's no disagreement, it happened. So I called that Anthony Davis would be a Los Angeles Laker, but I also compared this team to the 2008 Celtics. And I got some pushback, but then I also got a lot of great feedback in return. A lot of people agreed with me. Hey, that's interesting that you said that, because the 2008 Boston Celtics did not make the playoffs the year prior. They would go from not making the playoffs to receiving Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and then Paul Pierce, obviously, and then Rondo, who played an integral part of that championship run. That next year, they won a championship. LeBron James didn't do that in Miami because they didn't win it that year that he came. When he went back to Cleveland, they didn't win it that year. This Warriors dynasty didn't just come out of nowhere. They actually made the playoffs before they went on this dynasty run, and they lost to the Clippers the year prior. So I said this Lakers team is very unique. And there's some things that are just tied together no matter what. Peanut butter and jelly. My family knows I don't like jelly. But if I go over to my family's house, they'll say, do you want peanut butter and jelly? It's just always linked. It's cereal, milk, spaghetti, meatballs, bad guys chasing John Wick. It's just, these things will always be linked together. So I said, we're seeing that again. Kevin Garnett, smaller market, MVP candidate, MVP, power forward position, wants to go to a bigger market, win championships. That's Anthony Davis. LeBron James, better than Paul Pierce. But Ray Allen, 17 points per game. Kyle Kuzma, 18 points per game. Rondo will probably still be on this roster. We all know Rondo was on the 2008 Boston Celtics roster. So Anthony Davis becomes a Laker, and I felt vindicated. I felt just validation. Like, he was a Laker. I said he was going to be a Laker. He's a Laker. So I was right in that aspect. And a lot of other people thought he would be a Laker. But now that it finally came to fruition, now we can see if they land a third star. We could see if they should just sign role players, which I don't think is a bad idea, by the way. But my point being is that's what I love about sports, is that you could see when you're right and when you're wrong. There's a lot of opinions in any business, but in sports, there's a lot of answers that you can't debate. We can't debate right now that Anthony Davis just got traded to the Lakers. That's a fact. That happened. So with Anthony Davis becoming a Laker, everyone wants to know who the third star is. Is it Kawhi Leonard? Is it somebody who we all thought was either a Toronto Raptor or a Los Angeles Clipper? Or does he actually consider going to the Los Angeles Lakers? There was a report, his cousin was on I think Instagram Live saying he's coming to the Lakers. I'm not buying that necessarily. I don't buy that. I don't think Kawhi Leonard will be a Laker. I think if he were to become a Laker, this team would be an all-time team instantly, with 3 of the top 5 players in the world on one team, and keeping Kyle Kuzma, which was a huge part of this whole trade. I said Kyle Kuzma is going to flourish this NBA season. That's another one of my theories that will get answered over time. But I don't see Kawhi Leonard going to the Lakers. I told you where I think he's going to end up. It's going to be the LA Clippers. I think he wants to be in LA. I think Toronto has the most to offer. If I was Kawhi Leonard, I would seriously consider staying in Toronto. But sometimes it's just what makes a guy happy, what makes a girl happy. And I think it's just what makes Kawhi Leonard happy is being in LA. I think he just wants to be in LA. That's just what he wants to do. He wants to just be there. He can help build his New Balance brand, his shoe brand. It's where he wants to be. And it's just, you can't discredit or you can't tell somebody not to be happy and go live where you want to live. That's just what he wants to do. So I just wanted to start off by where I was right. Anthony Davis is officially a Los Angeles Laker. I also said that the Houston Rockets this season, and I guess we'll get right into it. The Houston Rockets this season, I almost forgot. So Anthony Davis became a Laker, but who did they trade? Exactly who I said they were going to trade. Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, and the Lakers kept Kuzma, which was crucial. They didn't give up the farm when they have all the leverage in the world, and the 4th-round pick, and they threw in some more first-round picks. I didn't think they needed to, but they just wanted to get AD in the building after all of this. So I'm okay with it. But that's exactly who the Pelicans got. Exactly what I said they received. And I think it's a win on both ends. I said the Pelicans can sneak into the playoffs next year. They certainly can. Zion Williamson and Lonzo Ball, I think, will be a dynamic duo. And that's another instance where we'll see if I'm right. Not opinion, we'll see if I'm right. Right now it's an opinion, but we'll see if I'm right. I think it was an excellent trade on both ends. And I think both teams won based on where they're at right now. The Pelicans have a lot of options now. They have that 4th pick, a lot of draft picks, some good young assets. And now the Lakers have a lot of options. They were able to keep their best young player, in their opinion, which was Kyle Kuzma, and land Anthony Davis, have LeBron James in the building. Now you can either get that 3rd star, or you can go disperse into role players. I think a Patrick Beverley would really be good and beneficial for this Lakers team. A veteran, gritty point guard who plays defense, the full 94 feet, and just really likes to compete. Just wants to compete. I think that's, you get a guy like that. You get a guy like Danny Green, a 3-and-D guy, proven himself in the finals, knows he'll show up in big moments. Trevor Ariza, play defense, long on the wing, shoot threes, very mobile. Those type of guys, if you don't get a max player like a Kawhi Leonard, a Kyrie Irving, a Jimmy Butler, it's perfectly fine if the Lakers choose to disperse that money amongst role players. Because you have to think, LeBron James coming off an injury, getting into, I think he'll be 35 this year. He's not going to play 82 games. Anthony Davis has an injury history, so you need enough players to pick up that slack instead of just all the pressure on one more guy. But if they do land a Kawhi Leonard, like I said, historical, right? Historical, automatically in the history books. If they get a Kyrie Irving, I think it's a great fit. They need a point guard. If they get a Jimmy Butler, a 3-and-D guy, I think both teams have so many options. And it's just beneficial for both parties, so I think they both won. But I think the Lakers obviously stole the show by getting somebody who is the best, Anthony Davis. So I just want to acknowledge where I was right. I don't want you guys thinking I'm just spitting out ideas here out of nowhere and not you're listening to somebody that you don't benefit from. I always love listening to people I can learn something from. I listen to Colin Cowherd, Nick Wright, Joe Rogan, Chris Broussard, Rashad Phillips, people that I can just soak as much knowledge as possible so I can apply that and just think in my own way, but understand other people's opinions, but people that I respect and I think are very smart, intelligent, and successful. So if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, why am I any different than anybody else? Well, I'm calling things that are correct. So it's validation. Okay. All right. So we have the Lakers. I think both parties won. And I also said the Houston Rockets are very interesting. I said Daryl Morey is going to make some interesting trades that are different. That may be a little off-brand. I think maybe he puts the calculator down. He moves the papers out of the way. And he says, you know what? I saw the Toronto Raptors beat the Golden State Warriors. And I know they didn't have Kevin Durant. But they didn't have Kevin Durant when they beat us. They smacked the Houston Rockets without Kevin Durant. Without Boogie Cousins playing. So Toronto beat the team that beat the Rockets. So now the Rockets can look back and say, okay, you know what? I saw a lot of mid-range shots. I saw big men playing a big role in the finals. I thought it's 2019. I thought all we did was shoot threes. So I said Daryl Morey is going to say, you know what? I think it's time to put the calculator down. He's going to make some decisions that may be a little off-brand, but I think they're They don't have the most cap space. Chris Paul has a terrible contract. They're not going to steal the headlights with these moves, but different type of moves where they could still be offensive-minded with D'Antoni, but a little more off-brand. They're going to make crucial moves. I didn't think they're going to trade James Harden, but I said they're going to make some big moves. And here we go. There's a report saying Chris Paul and James Harden didn't speak to each other for 2 months. 2 months. I'm not talking about angry practice. I'm not talking about an angry game, an angry weekend, an angry week. We didn't get along. I don't like that guy. We all had a family member or a friend where you have a bad week and you're just like, but you get over it. 2 months on a team that's trying to make a championship run. The leaders of that team went 2 months without speaking to each other. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I feel like a genius right now. Because now Chris Paul, this is where it gets extremely interesting. And now here's some theories. Now you have Chris Paul, who has a history of being a bad teammate. Great point guard, great leader on the court, but because he's so vocal, because he's so aggressive, and that's what makes him so good on the court, can rub teammates wrong. We saw it rub Blake Griffin wrong. We've seen it rub DeAndre Jordan wrong. He didn't get along with Austin Rivers. So we have this history of Chris Paul rubbing teammates the wrong way. We have it. We heard Matt Barnes say it countless times. It's a fact. He's rubbed teammates the wrong way. Not opinion, that's a fact. So now you have this instance where he comes into Houston, and I always said, and I got a lot of pushback for this because I do love CP3. I love Chris Paul. Great point guard. But I said he's underachieved. I said Chris Paul is underachieved. If he's an all-time great point guard and the furthest he's ever gotten in the playoffs was a Western Conference Finals, I feel like he's underachieved. I personally do. And I got a lot of pushback. And I said, okay, fine. He went to Houston. He's looking good. He got injured in Game 7 last year. They could have beaten the Warriors. He got injured. This was the year. This was the year they were supposed to beat the Warriors. Kevin Durant's injured. Boogie Cousins isn't playing. This was the year that they were supposed to overcome all of that. So now you have somebody who has a narrative of rubbing teammates the wrong way, getting older, and he got significantly older. We see that on the court. His game dropped. Now, I don't know if it's because of his personal issues with James Harden. Maybe he's a little passive-aggressive. Hey, okay, you think you could do it on your own and dribble 3,000 times in a game, and he may be let off, but the competitor in him, I don't believe he would do that. So now we have somebody who rubs players the wrong way, and he's regressing as a basketball player because of age. At the point guard position, that's a lot of wear and tear, a lot of falling. He's not the best three-point shooter, so a lot of his buckets were in the paint and mid-range. Very intelligent. He has a very cerebral approach to the game, all-time point guard, but now you have these negative connotations under Chris Paul. And on top of that, one of the worst contracts in the NBA. Him and John Wall are atrocious when it comes to contracts. Atrocious. And of course, for the player, for his families, for the agent, get as much money as you can. So I'm not blaming him for it. But for Daryl Morey, you have an aging point guard who's not helping your locker room, who didn't show up in the big moments, who's receiving tons and tons of money. So now I feel even better about my take. Now, for sure, something's going to happen. I think Daryl Morey just came out while I'm recording this, and I saw something before I went live, and he's saying, we're not trading CP3. So now you're regressing. Now you're going back on your own word saying anybody can get traded. So right now, I feel like the Houston Rockets, I thought the Golden State Warriors were vulnerable. Now I truly feel the Houston Rockets are on that level of vulnerability, and even more so, because at least the Golden State Warriors are buttoned up. They just got the injury bug. You can't help that. Klay Thompson tearing his ACL in the finals after Kevin Durant tearing his Achilles, there's nothing you can do about that. Boogie Cousins, Achilles, that's not being unbuttoned. That's just the injury bug. It was about time. They have 5 years of just 100-plus games per season. It happens. It's inevitable. It's a sad part of the game, but it's inevitable. The Houston Rockets have a front office issue right now. They have a chemistry issue right now. They have a terrible locker room issue right now. Because if your two leaders of this team are not speaking to each other for 2 months at a time, it's the domino effect. The players have more say in this league than any other league. So if your players are implementing that type of mindset into the locker room, that has a trickle-down effect. Now the players following those leaders are like, hey, why should we do this if our leaders aren't even leading by example? They're not even speaking to each other. It's sticky, and I think James Harden. There was a report that he went up to the Daryl Morey, and he said, "It's either Chris Paul or me," or Chris Paul said that. Either way, James Harden's the better player, and it's not close at right now. It's not close. At this time, 2019, James Harden's the better player than Chris Paul. But what team is willing to take a contract that badly? Like, that bad of a contract. And Chris Paul, what team is that desperate to do that? What dummy is able to take that contract? And I know it sounds harsh, but seriously, you would have to, unless you're in need for you're in desperation mode for a dynamic point guard. Quite frankly, not that dynamic, but you're in desperate need of a point guard. Then I can understand. But right now, with his age, his injury history, missing fewer games every single season, and only getting older, so it's only going to get worse, and really just handicapping yourself because of that type of money, I think it's foolish. So I don't think the market is good for Chris Paul, and I don't think this attitude issue right now for Chris Paul is very good right now. Whether it's true or not, this narrative over Chris Paul of being kind of hard to play with is only growing. It's only growing. I'm not in that locker room, so I can't tell you it's a fact, but I can tell you based off everything I've heard that Chris Paul definitely has a history of it. It's a fact that he's done it before. With the James Harden situation, it may be James Harden's fault. But at some point, Chris Paul has to realize you're not number one, you're number two to James Harden. So it's interesting. I think this roster is going to change. I think it's definitely going to change, but it's just so hard for me to see where they can possibly trade Chris Paul. There may be a team out there. I know the Orlando Magic. I cover the Orlando Magic. I know we need a point guard. I love DJ Augustine, great NBA role player, but we need a point guard. We need a dynamic point guard, but I don't want them to spend that type of money on Chris Paul. I don't. And if this was Chris Paul in his prime, I understand, but if this is Chris Paul who's older and injury prone, and honestly, he's regressed as a player dramatically. In the playoffs, Eric Gordon was the second best player on this Houston Rockets team. It wasn't Chris Paul. It wasn't. It wasn't Chris Paul. And I hate to tell you CP3 fans out there, because I know you guys don't already like me because of how critical I've been of him. But at this point, I don't think it's a debate. He's regressed as an NBA player, and he should. Not everybody's LeBron James. Not everybody's Iron Man, where you're in year 17 and you're slipping maybe a bit and we hold you that standard. No, it's normal for players to get more injury prone and regress as you get older. It's perfectly fine, but with that contract, that's when it gets detrimental. That's when it gets really bad. That's when it's just not good. The Houston Rockets. I'm looking at my notes here and I'm just like, yeah, that contract is just awful. It's absolutely awful. So we have LeBron James in Space Jam, right? And Space Jam 2. And if you guys recall, when Michael Jordan was in Space Jam 1, classic, everybody loves Space Jam. Who doesn't love Space Jam? Even if you're not a Chicago Bulls Jordan fan because you beat your team, you love Space Jam. So when he returned and he filmed, he got that court made on set, and he invited players to scrimmage and to play. That following year, he won the championship. That following year, he won the NBA championship. And they said he was scary. We should have never went and helped him because he got so good, they ended up going on a three-peat. So LeBron James is coming off a year where he is ridiculed, criticized, not being a good, I've even said wasn't a good leader this year. First injury in his career, not a good season, 27-8-8, but he didn't play as nearly as much as he used to. His defense lacked. They didn't make the playoffs after going to 8 straight finals. His first season in the West doesn't make the playoffs, let alone the finals. All the trade rumors, seems needy, has so many off-court things going on. People don't think he's fully invested in basketball, such as myself. And then he receives the most rest he's ever gotten because he wasn't in the playoffs. He's always in the finals. That's like another season when you play that many games. Look at the Golden State Warriors falling apart in 5 straight finals. LeBron went to 8 straight finals. This is his first injury. So I look at Michael Jordan, who won after recording Space Jam. I've compared LeBron and the Lakers to the 08 Celtics where they win the championship. I've always said that they're going to win in year 2. Now, this is history repeating itself. LeBron James is in Space Jam 2. Michael Jordan won the year after he filmed it. LeBron James is going to film it. The most rest he's ever gotten. The most criticism he's probably gotten since 2011 when he lost to the Dallas Mavericks, because they say he choked that series. This is the most criticism he's received since then. So you're getting a motivated LeBron, a rested LeBron and a motivated LeBron. Like somebody that knows that they're playing for a championship, not to teach young guys. You're getting somebody who knows the end goal of the season is to win a championship. That's something that he can invest in. I say it all the time. Conor McGregor, right, won 2 belts, the first to ever do it. But what's your motive after that? What was his motive? He even said he's not doesn't have that same drive, didn't have that same hunger, and he's getting it back now. But once you achieve the end-all, be-all, what is just a normal title defense? You achieved everything. So LeBron James going to 8 straight finals, goes to the Lakers, has business opportunities, but now you're playing for something again. And when he went to the Lakers, he didn't make the playoffs. This much criticism. Now he's, okay, you don't think I'm the best in the world anymore. I didn't make the playoffs, and now I have somebody where it's not just young guys. I have a top 5, top 7 player in the world in Anthony Davis alongside me to win a championship. LeBron James is winning it in year 2, and he's getting more rest than he's ever gotten, more focus than he's ever had in a while, just because of the amount of criticism he's had, and he's filming Space Jam 2. And I'm just saying, call me crazy. When Michael Jordan filmed it, he won the next year. I think everything's falling in place and history's repeating itself with LeBron James. He's filming Space Jam, getting more rest than ever, being motivated, playing for a championship, not to teach young guys. LeBron James is going to come back, not guaranteeing an MVP, but he's going to come back as the best player in the world, and he's going to come back and win an NBA championship. MVP is interesting. I'm not even going to get into that topic yet. I think we get into that way too early, and I disagree with everybody. I think the award should just be the best player award, and then we can kind of scale on who is the best player for amount of seasons. Who had, not like if you want to do who had the best season, or if you want to do who's the best player, but this most valuable is just getting twisted because James Harden was the most valuable. He got out in the second round. Russell Westbrook wasn't the most valuable when he had the triple-double. He got out in the first round. I don't think the most valuable has been represented in the right way. I think we just get caught up in storylines and the triple-double and the Derrick Rose came out of nowhere. He's not more valuable than LeBron. So I'm not a fan of the MVP award. I think it should be renamed, but that's an argument for another day. And so LeBron James is winning the championship. I said that Anthony Davis trade was going down. I said that the Houston Rockets were going to make some moves. It's going to be really hard to trade CP3. I think they're going to try their best, even though they say they're not going to. But this roster is certainly going to change. And I'm recording this the night of, what's the day? June 18th. It's the UFC Contender Series. And I want to hit you one last thing before I get into the UFC. So the Boston Celtics, and I said the Lakers they're linked, right? They're linked no matter what. They're linked. The 2008 Boston Celtics, I say, are this current year's Los Angeles Lakers. And I think everybody is focused on the Lakers and LeBron, and I understand, of course, Anthony Davis going there. I think they're going to win the championship. But I'm not 100% sold that the Lakers are going to play the Bucks in the finals. If I'm assuming Kawhi Leonard leaves. Like, if we assume Kawhi Leonard leaves, he goes to the Clippers, and the Lakers do go to the finals, I'm not 100% sold on the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not. I think this Boston Celtics team is going to be very, very nice. I think this Boston Celtics team can shock a lot of people. I think they're going to be extremely deep and extremely motivated, and the chemistry is going to be elevated because Kyrie Irving's leaving. I think he goes to Brooklyn. Now you have Jason Tatum going back into that role of, I'm the guy. This is the Jason Tatum you saw in the playoffs when I played LeBron. I'm the guy. Terry Rozier is like, okay, now I get to play more. I said when Kyrie Irving was healthy, this is the biggest challenge Coach Stevens ever had, Brad Stevens. He has to deal with egos in minutes, and it overwhelmed them. It bombarded them. Egos. Kyrie Irving want to play. Rozier doesn't want to play with Kyrie Irving, and Tatum can't get the ball as much, and then Gordon Hayward's healthy again. I think we're going to see a Boston Celtics team that feels like, okay, now we get to show you that we're better without Kyrie Irving, whether you believe that or not, and everybody will know their role. Everybody will know their role. They still have a mix of veterans and young players, but I think they're deep, and I think they're more balanced. There's only one ball, and when you have a team that doesn't like each other or get along or understand their roles, it's extremely difficult no matter the talent. Now you're having a Boston Celtics team who knows their roles, assuming Kyrie Irving leaves, and will be motivated and have something to prove. People with chips on their shoulder are the most dangerous people, in a good way, because they have something to prove. They didn't have things handed to them. LeBron James, I think, wins a championship. He has a chip on his shoulder this year. I think Kawhi Leonard had a chip on his shoulder because everything that went down with San Antonio, he goes to Toronto, chip on his shoulder. I think people with chips on their shoulders win, and they overcome, and they're motivated, and they're hungry, and they do what it takes to achieve that goal. And I think that's what the Boston Celtics will be. I truly do. Okay, so now I want to shift gears to the UFC. I had my guy Alton Meeks on a couple podcasts back. You can check it out. Awesome, he's an awesome dude. And he's fighting tonight, which on Dana White's UFC Contender Series, I believe, is Season 3. And he's going to win. I told him that when I had him on my podcast. I said, I'm not just saying this because you're my guy, you're my friend. You're going to win. But it got me to think. It got me to thinking, when we think of basketball, everyone's like, what's the perfect NBA player? We all play NBA 2K, or we watch these players and we're like, man, Giannis is just the dream NBA player. Kevin Durant. So when we think of the perfect NBA player, I typically think of 6'7" to now. I mean, Kevin Durant, people say 7 feet, and Giannis is 7 feet. So let's just say to Kevin Durant to Giannis's height, he really is like a freak of nature, the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I said that name correctly. Is where you have this wing player who is able to defend 1 through 5. Doesn't mean he has to lock down the center position, but now the 5 position is different in today's basketball because they're more mobile, they have to be more agile, they have to shoot more threes. It's not necessarily 7 feet, 350 pounds like Shaq just doing layups. It's 6'11", 6'10", European style of basketball where they're very quick and elusive and not as strong. So when of course, there's a couple guys that are extremely strong, and that's where you get those mismatches from. But that's the type of guy I want. Can guard 1 through 5, can ball handle, has to be able to shoot, can pass, really no weaknesses. Like, that's the perfect NBA player to me. Is LeBron, is a Kevin Durant, a Kawhi Leonard, a Giannis, like a Paul George, and there's no question, no argument. They're all in that same position. They're all in that perimeter. And I know we're in like positionless basketball age right now, but they're all in that 3 position, that perimeter position where they can do a little bit of everything. It's not a coincidence. Now, and I thought about it. What do I look for in a successful MMA fighter? And I think the recipe is actually fairly simple. And I'm actually going to fill you guys in on how you can actually tell who the next star in the UFC will be. Because that's what the UFC is, a star-driven sport. Who's the next guy? Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, Chuck Liddell, George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva. Who's that next guy? Now, when you look at guys that can really, really change the UFC and who's going to be the next champion, that's what I said. Alton Meeks isn't just going to be a UFC champion. I said he's going to be a heavyweight star. Like, he's going to be a champion. He's going to be a star. And I think it's very simple. 1, what's your athletic ability? Like, what's your God-gifted talent? John Jones has the longest reach in UFC history. Anderson Silva's hand-eye coordination and timing and precision was just second to none. George St. Pierre's athleticism, Jose Aldo's speed. Just, there's these guys that just have, even Brock Lesnar, just that sized. Do you have something different? Athletically, are you different? Are you different? Alton has that. He's 265 pounds. Former football player, just an athlete, can move, he's mobile, he's big. You can't teach that, it's just something he has. 2, are you a get it guy? And by that, what is your IQ? Some fighters get it, some fighters go in there and just brawl. Alton Meeks is one of those, he's a get it guy. I've commentated with the guy. He's a genius in the sport, and he's very smart. He's very self-aware. So he has this big bronze just 265 of muscle, athletic as can be, but he's got the mind behind it. So now he has the best of both worlds. Very intelligent, but his God-gifted ability athletically. And then 3, are you a specialist in something? What do you do better than everybody else? John Jones, it's his range. Habib is his wrestling. George St. Pierre was his strategy. Anderson Silva was his timing on the feet. Holloway is his boxing. Aldo's was his leg kick. Every champion, Chuck Liddell was his takedown defense with counterpunching. He just had that one punch thing that can just, if he just touches you, you're done. Cain Velasquez was his wrestling. Alton Meeks has that. It's his wrestling. He's going to win the wrestling battle. He's a wrestler. That's what he does. That is what he does. used to play football, very low center of gravity, very athletic, very big, very strong, very intelligent, but has the wrestling. He will out-wrestle you. And lastly, what environment and what situation are you walking into? And that truly does matter. You can have the best fighter in the world who walks into a bad environment where, and what I mean by that is Tony Ferguson, for example, an amazing fighter. I think he'll be a lightweight champion. I truly do. And he's on this huge streak, but he has Khabib, he has Conor McGregor, he has Donald Cerrone. He has these guys who steal the light, who steal the money. Conor and Khabib, 27-0. Like, it's a dog-eat-dog division. It's a stacked division. And you look at that type of situation that you're walking into. And can a guy truly flourish when he's walking into the toughest of the toughest? Alton Meeks is walking into a beautiful situation. You see it all the time with NBA players. If they get drafted to a team that is just poorly ran, you can't overcome just a poorly ran business. As talented as you are, LeBron James left Cleveland and he went to Miami. He then came back and he understood how to win a championship and got players with him and recruited players with him, but he couldn't do it by himself. He couldn't overcome that disorganized organization by himself. And if a UFC fighter walks into a division, now surely he can overcome it, but it's certainly harder. But if you walk into a moment where you can own the scene, then that's special. And that's what Alton Meeks has. He's going to walk into the UFC heavyweight division, which I feel is in a huge shift and a lot of parity. Daniel Cormier's last fight is against Stipe Miocic, number 2. Overeem is kind of past his prime, older. Andrei Arlovski, I love him. I think he's just a little older. Ngannou's on a tear, but he's been exposed with his wrestling. Junior Dos Santos is a little older. That fight is going to be amazing. And he's been a champion. So they're in desperate need, I think, of a new guy. And Greg Hardy's up there. But I think Alton Meeks gets it. I think he's different, and I think he gets it. And I think that is not only the perfect recipe for a successful fighter, but it really is the story of the UFC. It's the story of the UFC. You can apply that same, concept, that same model, evaluating model, to any successful fighter. Conor McGregor, his movement, he stands out. He's a get-it guy, extremely athletic. And he walked into the UFC when nobody was like him. Nobody was like him. Khabib, best wrestler. They say when he gets a hold of you, it feels like a bear. It feels different. That's his athletic ability. And he walked into a division where we've seen nobody do what Khabib's done. Nobody has done what he's done. And he's a get-it guy. Very self-aware. Very self-aware. Very high IQ. He knows what he's really good at, and he knows his weaknesses, and he avoids those weaknesses where they don't even seem like weaknesses. He knows it. He knows where to go in and where to go out. You see it with the best. Anderson Silva, John Jones. Alton Meeks has all of that working for him. He has all that working for him, and that's why I'm so invested in Alton Meeks. But the heavyweight needs a new star. Greg Hardy is getting promoted like one, and I think he can be. Alton Meeks has it. He has it. We'll see. I'm recording tonight, so next time I record, I give you where I'm right and where I'm wrong. Like I said, that's what I love about sports. I appreciate you guys. Like always, I appreciate you guys. Download and subscribe any podcast platform. Please tell a friend. I've been getting a lot of questions on social media, a lot of great feedback, which I always appreciate. I'm going to try to answer those next episode if I don't have a guest. I know I have a lot of big guests coming on the show soon. So depending on how I space it out, I certainly will get to those. But leave a comment. Please tell a friend. Thumbs up, subscribe. And like always, I appreciate you. And peace.